Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. My name is Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to talk about what's happening in the national news, what's happened in their own individual businesses, and their own individual business sectors. I'd like to quickly thank our sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, who also make the coffee every single week for me, and the great guys as well. I'd like to introduce you to my panel this week. We've got Stephen Freeman. He's the CEO of Freemans Event Partners, 125 staff based in Gloucester with a turnover 100 million. And on a weekend, he has nearly 3,000 people working on him. We got, not working on him, but working for him. We got Talitha Nelson, CEO of Gloucestershire Community Foundation. Last year, they delivered over 2.5 million of funding to over 400 charities over the last 3 years. We've got Adrian Goodall, Director of Rokeby Developments. He's the main man delivering the £30 million development, Bakers Quay. That's the Downings Malthouse. And we'll find out more about that when he comes on the show as well. And finally, and never last not least, I play golf with him, but he couldn't be bothered to turn up in person this morning. It's Simon Hewer having technical problems from Painswick. He's a managing director of Gloucestershire-based Hewer Facilities. They employ 152 staff, turnover of 17 million. They're mechanical, electrical services, plumbing and heating specialists, and also renewables as well. And here is Simon. Simon, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Talitha and Steve. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Morning.
No worries at all. Let's quickly share the screen and find out, courtesy of the BBC, what is going on. Hopefully, guys, you can see that. Right, we've got the Times. RAB stands firm as PM Mull's report on bullying. The Guardian, RAB fights for political life. The Daily Telegraph, right, RAB will fight to the death to keep his job. The Metro, Elon, we have a problem. That's his lovely space rocket that got destroyed. SpaceX gives up but not away, says the Financial Times. The Daily Express, just why did the BBC ignore MP's call to protect women? The Sun, for the love of Paul, this is Paul O'Grady's passed away in his funeral. The Daily Star, again, the love of dogs. The Mirror, Olivia Killer's appeal over jail time. The Daily Mail, unelected lords plot to block Rwanda flight law. It's a real mixed bag today. By the time this gets shown, we'll all know what's happened to RAB, and most of us won't care anyway. So let's start with you today, Stephen, as you're new on the show. Thanks ever so much for joining us.
No problem.
What have you picked out for us, please, sir?
I've picked out the issues based around the Just Stop Oil protest that's happening at the moment, or Extinction Rebellion, or one of the several names the protesters, which have the right to protest, give themselves, and the fact that sustainability post-COVID has become a real business asset if you use it properly, and every single contract we tender for in the event world, sustainability is number one and number two on the agenda for 90% of people. I feel the way these people are now conducting themselves, when sustainability has the wind in its sails, and when it becomes legislation and more of a clear footpath towards sustainability, companies are genuinely interested. I feel they could be tipping the dial the wrong way by some of their actions at Formula One last year, at Aintree Racecourse this year, and at the snooker the other day, obviously, and I believe the London Marathon is now being targeted as of the news this morning. It really needs to stop. It's going to put people's lives in jeopardy, and people really want to engage with sustainability moving forward, providing they can correctly tread that, what is a rocky footpath at the moment. It needs to stop because they're going to do more damage than not. So that's one of the news articles I'm pushing this morning.
Well, I totally agree with you. And there's a big article in The Sun, actually, about the lady who runs, one of the directors or founders of Extinction Rebellion. Now, allegedly, Gail Randbrook, who there she is at Waitrose in Stroud, filling up her car, which happens to be a diesel, and buying fruit and veg in Waitrose that's been travelled over 17,400 miles. So you couldn't make it up, could you? I mean...
And that's a bit cynical, really, you know, but everybody's got to go to the shop, and everybody's got to go here, and everybody's got to live and eat and breathe. But sustainability is very real. I'm sure Adrian's experiencing that with his building project as part of the planning consents. I'm sure Talitha's experiencing that as part of the charity stuff, and every industry's feeling it. The path for sustainability is not clear. It has got a lot of greenwashing involved. There's a lot of different badges being put on it. So as it becomes clearer in legislation, it's going to be very real. Let's not put off the people that's on the knife edge of really starting to push it forward by upsetting thousands and thousands of people by creating issues that shouldn't be there at the moment. So,
and the thing about upsetting the marathon, I think if they go ahead and upset the London Marathon with so many good causes, so much charity is involved, it would be actually scandalous. But no, thanks ever so much for that, Stephen. I'm going to bring Talitha in now, obviously, because I've just nice tag into charity there. But Talitha, what have you found in the media today, please? It's caught your eye.
Yeah, it's really hard to bring a good news story at the moment. It does feel a bit doom and gloom out there. I think for me, it's about systems and ways of working and what's fit for purpose. And I think Ofsted, this is a really sad story of Ruth Perry, who's gone through an Ofsted process. We've actually got stats coming through. We are the most stressed we've ever been as a society, and mental health is at the very lowest. And we have gone through one of the most serious, life-changing situations called the pandemic, and you come out the other end and you can imagine what schools have been through. And she gets an Ofsted inspection and has been basically told that the report will come through as inadequate. Now this poor woman has come through the school with the pandemic, and they're picking themselves up and they're trying to move forward in the best way possible, but the system isn't fit for purpose. It's not fit for now. It doesn't reflect the challenges schools have been through. This woman has obviously worked her socks off, and the stress that's incurred, she has taken her own life. And that is incredibly extreme. And so you look at something like Ofsted, and the feedback's gone back, but they mark their own homework. And actually it comes back, their own system's totally inadequate. How can you have a totally inadequate system, going in and affecting people's lives? So for me, I think our statutory bodies are under the most pressure they've ever been in history. I know my chair, who's a doctor in the Cheltenham and Gloucester hospitals, has said this has been the toughest Christmas of their whole careers. My heart absolutely goes out to people that are tirelessly working for our communities, our people, our health systems, our educational systems. And I just hope that people in power start making some real changes around the systems that we have to enable society to move forward. So that's the story that's really popped out for me.
Okay, I couldn't agree with you both. Thanks ever so much for that, Talitha. Right, I'm going to bring in Adrian. Hi, Adrian.
Morning.
Now, I know I talked to you on the way here. I'm surprised and delighted to have you, because you would drive me quite on the way here. So anyway, what have you?
I was quite pleased. I managed to read my news stories before I even got in the car. So I beat you this morning, Mark.
Fantastic. What have you got for us then, please?
Well, I sort of looked at two stories, but the first one was the story you had about Elon Musk actually, and the rocket exploding. But I looked in a sort of slightly probably different view than a lot of people, because it reminded me of the rocket exploding in Cornwall and how excited we were that the UK had our first sort of space runway, and the jumbo jet had landed in advance of the satellite launch, and there was this huge excitement. Then the satellite, when it launched, exploded, and it was like a damp squib, and it was sort of deemed as a complete failure. And then the Elon Musk is just a reminder that things do go wrong. And I'd very much hope that the guys down in Cornwall will get some more funding together, because they've laid everybody off, I think, at the moment, and try again, Mark. I'm a great believer in try again. Don't quit. And I think there's a sort of connotation for Gloucester as well, what with Kemble and two airfields, and a historic sort of link to aviation, everything that we shouldn't give up in our sort of ambitions in space and aviation, and try again.
Totally agree. And you are definitely a man who has tried again and got it over the line, but we'll find out about that a little bit later. No, well, thanks ever so much. Have you got one more quickly, Adrian?
Well, just a very quick one. Yeah, the coronation. What everyone's thoughts on the coronation quiche are, and the link to the coronation and broad beans. I sort of brought up on coronation chicken. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to continue to be living off coronation broad beans in such a way for the future. What anyone else's thoughts are on that?
Well, I'm going to bring in Stephen, obviously, because hopefully you might make a shilling out of this, Stephen.
Coronation jam sponge, I am, unfortunately. Broad beans or quiche. So we're doing some stuff at Windsor Castle for the coronation and at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. So we'll be involved in that one. It's a national occasion. We don't often see. Well, we've a long time ago since I did see the last one. So we'll be there seeing the crowning of a king, and we might not see it again in our lifetime. So it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, whether you're royalist or not. It'll be a fantastic occasion, and we do these occasions in Britain very well. So we'll see. I'm definitely not a quiche person, no, Adrian.
we definitely do. I love watching all the military parades and stuff like that, and the practice that goes behind the scenes is actually truly amazing. As I've been involved in them myself. Okay, let's bring in Simon. Simon, hey, welcome to the show. Thanks ever so much for coming to us over the telephone this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mark, again. It's really interesting actually listening to the comments from Talitha, Steve, and Adrian, because it sort of almost ties into the news topic I was going to pick.
Okay, what's the story then, please?
Well, I mean, it's obviously the major headline, or one of them, in relation to the ongoing strikes across various sectors. I mean, it's interesting headline from the doctors. They're looking for this sort of 30% pay rise, which isn't really just about the current cost of living, but it's also their opportunity to try and readdress the balance of sort of underinvestments over the recent decades. And I think it sort of ties into, I mean, I don't know what the other guys think, but I know what sort of country I'd like to live in. And I'd like to live in a country where our professionals and our staff and our services are well paid, well cared for. My concern is how do we afford that? Is it spending our taxes better? Is it as simple as that? Or do we just need to be paying more tax and we need to be paying our people more money? I've got a son who's a police officer, and I have a daughter who dropped out of midwifery after the first year purely because of the absolute extreme pressure that they're trying to work under. And it's crazy. They're going in to try and do the right thing, but the money just doesn't appear to be there. So I'm a little bit lost how we move it forward as a country.
Well, I totally agree with you there. Is it more taxes, or is it? There's also, we know there's massive inefficiencies as well. Within the NHS, with lots of government departments.
Indeed.
It's a big issue. Should we pay more tax? Stephen, I'll ask you quickly, round robin.
I don't think you put water in a leaky bucket.
Fair play. Talitha?
I think if they scrap the non-dom, I think that the millions and millions that people save on the non-dom tax services half of that would pay the uplift of salaries. So I think it's about distribution of wealth, and we have a real problem because the divide between rich and poor has only got bigger. And so the richer have got richer and the poorer have got poorer. And we're not distributing money in the right way.
It's always been the same way, isn't it? Adrian, what do you think? More taxes?
No, I think more efficiency. I think to be honest, I think non-DOMs is a small drop in the ocean. I think as a nation as a whole, if we could do things more efficiently, we earn more money, we pay more tax, we can put more money into the public sector. An efficient public sector needs an efficient private sector, and they need to work symbolically together. One needs to support each other. It's not a one-sided thing. And touch on Downings, if you like, for a second. 5 years it's taken to get a planning consent. Lots of different reasons, but it'll take 2 years to build it. In the course of designing it and getting on site and building it, it will still take time. And now if we could sort of streamline that and we could do it in half the time, we can actually employ twice as many contractors because we'll be doing something else. We'll be earning twice as much money, we'll be paying twice as much tax. That goes to the public sector. And that's, a working population of, 40 million people, perhaps 35 million people contributing. and that will contribute a lot more effectively than a dozen non-DOMs.
Totally agree with you as well. Well, all great views from the panel there. Well, thanks ever so much, everybody. Let's Stephen, let's talk about your business, please. Freeman's Event Partners. You seem to be going from strength to strength, 100 million turnover, massive weekend coming up for you again. So, what's going on at the weekend for you?
So I jump in the car at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I've got a full weekend this weekend. I arrive at Lords for about 8:30. We've got a small county cricket game there. Only a small presence, about 2 or 3 outlets, about 3,000 people. I'll leave Lords within an hour, do the shaky hand man, and I'll go to Twickenham Stadium where we've got Harlequins and Bath for what they call it traditionally the St George's Day fixture. But there's about 60,000 at Harlequins and Bath, and we've got a full-blown offer there.
What's your offer there? Sorry, what's your offer there, Steve?
Everything from oysters and champagne to a 6-ounce 100% British beef burger. Chinese, we bring in street food operators, we bring in it's about 60 outlets. So you probably have around 35, 40 menus within that. Everything from vegan, vegetarian to oysters, champagne, and so on and so forth. We manage the whole process. We won't operate all outlets, we'll operate some, and then we'll subcontract. We build a portfolio of food and drink to suit the event on the day. So that could be anything from England rugby to rugby sevens. I'm just picking on one venue, rugby sevens to a watchtower convention. The menus will change subject to the crowd we're faced with. That's Twickenham. So then I'll jump in the car a couple of hours after that and off to Wembley to the semi-final, the first semi-final, which is Man City and Sheffield somebody, I think, is it? I don't know who's in the semi-final. And we got about 75,000 there. And that will be very much a beer alcohol occasion. Even though there is food and beverage available, it's really, really driven by alcohol. And that will be on the concourse around Wembley Stadium. We'll be serving in the region of probably about 20,000 of those fans their daily tipple, if you like. Then I leave there and I'll end up back at hopefully Gloucester Rugby Club or Gloucester Sale, I believe it is. So we got about 13,500 in there this weekend. And so we'll be serving about 260,000 people over the whole weekend.
God.
Oh,
gosh.
A very, very busy day. You almost travel as much as Adrian.
Yeah, it's quite.
What happened? Are you covered if one of the events cancels? You think, God, if anything cancelled, are you insured? I mean, that is a huge amount of outlay.
We were doing the Hyde Park concerts for when the London bombings happened. We've had foot and mouth. We've obviously had COVID.
Yeah.
So we're half used to it. But if one event cancels, we're usually quite busy, so we can manoeuvre equipment, staff, stock to the following weekend, so on and so forth. But will there be a significant loss? Yes, there would. Is some of it insured? Is some of it insured? Yes, it is.
Right.
We have the ability to roll it over. Yes, we do.
Amazing.
Thanks ever so much for that, Stephen, and thanks for joining us. I know how busy you all are. Right, I go over to Talitha. Talitha, you're very well. We're all busy. Let's be honest about it. Everybody else is busy. We're working longer, harder for less. That's my saying.
Well, I say my diary's full. I try not to say I'm busy. I say my diary's rather full.
Well, look, you've got 2 minutes to give us a good blast about your up and coming event that you're planning.
Yeah. So
tell us all about that.
For those of you who don't know us, we're the Gloucestershire Community Foundation. We've been investing in communities in Gloucestershire as a whole for over 30 years. We invest in communities. We hope that by investing in communities, we all have a better life. So part of our work is partnering with businesses, individuals, families. We match their wishes of investing in communities with the amazing charities. There's 2,500 charities in our county. They are the social fabric of our society. If they disappeared, we would all feel it. So my job is very, very rewarding. But on the other side of things, the reality is we're all businesses and we've got to cover our overheads. And one of the ways we do that is in fundraising. So we have got a rather unique and fabulous fundraiser coming up on the 25th of June. It's called GCS Great Escape. It's shining a light on rural communities, which is really tough when you live in the Cotswolds and everyone perceives it as a wealthy area. If you're not wealthy, you're pretty much overlooked. So it is shining a light on the challenges of living in rural communities. It's a GCF car rally. It's a navigational car rally. and it sounds like it's not particularly green, but sadly we have no alternative. So if you are living in the Cotswolds or rural communities, there's no access to services unless you have a car. So it's shining a light on access to services. However, having fun, we take you through some amazing locations in Gloucestershire. We say, if you've been 200 miles each way to Cornwall to explore the area, why not come and explore your own backyard? And that's what we're going to help you do. We're supporting the businesses along the way. So those businesses along the way that need support, that need our help, we must support locally. We must invest locally. So it has a lot of different avenues. This fundraiser is fun, but the reality is also about the challenges of our rural communities. We've got 3 amazing charities that are partnering with us that work deep in our rural communities. So do come along, 25th of June.
Very quickly, how do we join if we want to do it?
So if you go onto the Gloucestershire Community Foundation website into events, the links are on there, but get in touch with me personally. You can book directly. It's a great business away day. And we do encourage filling a car at discounted rates for a green option. Fill a car. And it includes breakfast, stops and dinner, and the locations are phenomenal. So get in touch.
Thanks so much for that. You can't get more passionate than that, can you?
And our first sponsor has just come on board. So Oasis Events, Danny and Mark are sponsoring as lead sponsor for the event and are helping to support and organise the event. So many of you probably know them.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that. Adrian, I'm going to go to you next. Wow, I was at your planning committee for the
penalty shootout. Oh, how it felt.
That was a close call, wasn't it? I mean, it went right down to the wire. It was quite politicised, if you ask me. It seems to be Tories on one side, it seems to be the other parties on the other side. But let's not get into that. It's taken a long time. So do you just want to tell us the process, what's going to happen next? And while you're talking, I'm going to see if I can share the screen and bring up some photographs, which I've got on the bottom here as well. So hold on a second. Anyway, go, you crack on, mate.
Okay, so what happens next? We're sort of doing 2 or 3 things in parallel now. We've got our mine to grant consent. We need to just finalise the Section 106 agreement, the payment paperwork which goes with the planning consent. Then that becomes official. Then we have to do the technical design, which will take probably 8 to 12 weeks. In parallel with that, we will be looking to discharge the pre-start planning conditions, and in parallel with that, starting to put together the tender paperwork. So probably about August, we will be in good shape to go out and talk to main contractors. Great believer in supporting locally. I think that's the theme following Talitha and her mission. One of the challenges we've got is the first 2 sort of lead contractors we spoke to said we can't get insurance anymore to build a 10-story building.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to have to go a little bit further afield, which is unfortunate, but hopefully we can pick up some local subcontractors on the way. So go out to contractors summertime, they will in turn will go out to the market. They'll come back October, November with a sort of firm price. More paperwork, begging bowl to the banks, and hopefully starting site somewhere between November and January.
Now I've got the building up here. Hopefully you can all see it. This is the 10-story. We've got the Costa, so if you know the area, 10 stories high. Do you want to just quickly explain about the building, Adrian?
There's actually 2 buildings, Mark.
Of course,
we got our original consent back in 2016, and that was to restore the Downings Malthouse, which is the building behind the new tower building. You can't really see it in that picture. Anyone who's been on the site locally recently might remember the sort of scaffolding, the closed Merchants Road propping up the remaining walls, and the challenge for us was really getting sufficient of the heritage subsidy together to restore that building. And keep it safe, maintain it, and at the same time address all the other challenges today of combustibility, cladding, all cost additional money effectively. So as each year's gone by, we've added an extra floor basically.
God.
So the tower is unapologetic. It's a tall building. The council wanted a landmark gateway building to the docks, and I'd like to think we've achieved it. It's been controversial, and I'll go to that in a minute. But that funds the restoration of Downings behind it. And I think one significant thing for us is Historic England didn't actually object to the planning application, and they did acknowledge that our proposals did restore Downings. And so, we've been pilloried in some of the local press for building a tower, but no one's really focused on the fact that what it brings.
The big thing about it as well is what a big pile of pants it is there now. I mean, it's been derelict for like 20 odd years. It's been derelict for as long as I've been here in Gloucester, in Gloucestershire. And it's great that you're moving it forward. And fair play to you for sticking with Gloucester, by the way. Fair play, because
thanks very much. So that's the other thing. There was an 8-story concrete silo there, which is a proper blot on the landscape. We thought we would got support for the original scheme, and we started safety work in March 2020. Little did we know what was going to happen 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Sorry. Anyway, let's we'll quickly go over to Simon, who's still on the phone. Hey, Simon, thanks for sticking with us, buddy.
No, it's been very interesting listening to the other callers, and like you would also congratulate Adrian for hanging in there as a sort of long-standing local business and local of Gloucestershire and Gloucester. Excited to see the developments take shape. So I wish you all the very best for that.
So Simon, tell us about Hewers then. Obviously, winter's been and gone now. You must go, oh, it's your busiest time of year in the plumbing trade, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been a super busy period. I mean, on two fronts. We deal with people's domestic heating systems or electric at home, which may break down or need servicing. And we do that all the way through to hospitals, schools, colleges. And at the same time, there's also a big drive on the renewable sector. And this is one of the things I was going to touch on. I mean, within renewables at the moment, the government have got a great scheme in place where you get £5,000 as a grant if you upgrade your home heating to an air source heat pump. In the first quarter, we're currently 90 million underspent. So it's a great opportunity to do the right thing. But unfortunately, although I am a supporter of the government in many ways, we're once again failing to do the right thing, notwithstanding the money that has been committed to it. But anyway, so in the business, we've been very busy. As you know, Mark, we're quite diverse and we cover a big area. So I've just picked one particular bit, really. So one of the things I've really been excited about from a personal point of view is working with some clients where we're looking to meet their requirements, heating, hot water, but also helping them to save money at the same time and do the right thing from the environment point of view. So air source heat pumps with gas boilers, with some solar PV. And we've also done some work at Gloucester Cathedral recently. Again, coming up with some very clever ideas to solve some quite challenging problems in a very iconic building. And then the other part of the business, which I'm also very, very happy and passionate about, is the team of the people. So we're currently doing the Hewer Great Bake Off. So there's a challenge going on across the company for people to bring in a cake. So you've got heating engineers, electrical engineers, and obviously the office team vying to take this coveted trophy of Bake Off.
Brilliant.
Quite hilarious. I think we're all growing at a rapid rate of knots in the wrong way. But it's great because it sort of goes to show the sort of team ethos we have in the business, which I'm sure everybody agree. You're only as good as the team of people that are the actual business. So it's something which I'm very proud of. So as I say, very busy. There's a major push on decarbonisation. Lots of money sloshing away from government. Whether we'll be able to spend it as an industry, I'm not sure we will, to be fair. I think that there's a bit of a huge lack of resource. But it's been a good year so far, Mark.
All right. Well, no, thanks so much for putting that in, mate. And you just seem to be everywhere at the moment. So apart from with us on screen, but there we go.
I do apologise.
don't worry. I'm going to be taking the mickey out of you on the golf course, hopefully very soon. Right. Okay. We're gonna wrap up with the papers. I might as well start with you, Simon. Not the papers. So we're going to wrap up with Punchline. What's your story that you picked out in this week's Punch, please? We've only got a couple of minutes left, though.
Okay. Well, so As you know, so long-term, long-standing family business. So the thing that caught my eye was Land Rover moving away from the Land Rover sort of badge. 75 years of heritage. Now, obviously, the business behind Land Rover are pumping in huge amounts of money. And I was just curious to think, well, they must know what they're doing. But 75 years of history, 75 years of you know, some people would say revered badge. And they're moving away. So I just wanted to know, is that a huge gamble? Probably not. As you and I touched on earlier, Mark, I mean, they do seem to be moving the business forwards, investing heavily. I hope it turns out to be a good news story, but I just still find 75 years of heritage step away from feels like a big one.
Feels like a big gamble, doesn't it? Stephen,
yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Simon. What have you picked out for this week's punchline, please?
Business confidence. Is it real? I'm in a bit of a negative now, but you can't put up people's shopping bills, their utilities, their fuel, their eating out expenses by as much as it has in the last 12, 18 months, 2 years, and not expect a downside. We're starting to see that downside. I won't name the events because it'd be unfair to. In the past 6 or 8 weeks at particular major events that's gone on, where we're seeing a significant tightening of people's excess spend.
And are you seeing less people at the events as well, Stephen?
Significantly less people at 2 major multinational events that have just gone on, and significantly less spend at that. Right. So we're seeing more the iconic Instagram moment spend on a bottle of champagne than 6 or 7 points of lager. So people can sort of say how great they are to their friends and all that sort of stuff. But we are seeing a tightening in spend now. And we usually what usually happens with us with cash, which is quite interesting. I'll drag it out for 1 minute for you guys. We used to take hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of coins to an event. Yeah. And if you used all them coins, the economy would be good because people would be using notes. When you used to bring back more coins from an event, the economy would be bad because people would be picking out the coins out their purse. And it's a silly statement, but we haven't got that no more because everybody uses credit cards. So you don't quite see that. But we are seeing a tightening in spend across some significant major events.
The other thing, Stephen, is the price of tickets have gone through the roof again, because, I go to the Principality Stadium for a seat. Anyway, we could talk about this forever. Thanks ever so much for that. Talitha, what have you picked out from this week's punchline, please?
The Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust. I'm really pleased that we're looking at the flood management in our county. Just before I started in 2019, we'd had a huge flooding across Gloucestershire and a lot of homes affected. And it happens when we have some serious flooding, a lot of homes affected. So I'm really pleased that they're doing a big piece of work around looking at how they can tackle the flooding in our county. So the Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust, an amazing charity locally, and it's a really good article. Really pleased that you've, because I didn't know anything about it, that you've featured it because I haven't seen it written anywhere else.
There we go. It's all in the punchline. Thanks for that. Adrian, finishing off with you, sir. What have you picked out for this week's punch?
I think the Land Rover one was what I was going to talk about, so that's thrown me slightly. So I was just having a quick go around some of the other stories, and I was intrigued that you still got a GWR not on the track. Leak reveals Network Rail woes. They carry on. They carry on. Trains are running late out of Paddington because of adverse weather today.
Yeah, but that's right, and they're in trouble.
Well, adverse weather today.
It's a great story. One of my journalists picked up there, and. Simon, we covered you already, haven't we? So the story that caught my eye this week is actually the return of the cassette tape, because I'm a particular age. So I'm going to quickly ask the panel very, very quickly. Stephen, what is your favourite cassette?
My first cassette, not my favourite. I've picked out my first. So Now 16 was the first cassette what were played on I can only describe it as a beatbox back in the day, and that was Paul Hardcastle and Vietnam, the song that was Vietnam. That was my first one. I haven't really got a favourite, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries at all. Talitha, what was the first cassette that you bought? or
so it's still my favourite, and she hasn't dwindled. She's still my favourite. Annie Lennox, Sweet Dreams, is still listened. I listen to her at least a couple of times a month. But the 80s was an iconic time, definitely. for amazing artists.
I can imagine you humming away, singing your heart out to that in the car.
Absolutely, and it never gets old.
Adrian, your TVR must have had a cassette.
TR7, Mark.
TR7.
Newly rediscovered. Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen. Fantastic. Simon, what about yourself, mate? What would you have in your cassette?
Well, first things first, just to qualify, I wouldn't say it's my favourite tape, but you did say the first tape.
Okay.
The first tape music I bought was, I'm slightly embarrassed to say, but I was a Motorhead banger, and my first tape was Motorhead Ace of Spades.
Oh, brilliant!
Well, that doesn't bloody surprise me at all.
It's still a good one to listen to.
I've got to say, my favourite one was actually Paul Young, No Parlay.
Oh,
still a great album wherever I lay my hat. And that's all I've got time for now, unfortunately. I'd just like to thank my fantastic panel for joining us today. For you, for watching the show. If you like the show, please like, share and subscribe. And a big thanks to our amazing sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. If you like the show, please like, share and subscribe. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you. Bye.